AEW has a new signing. One of their top stars could be leaving very soon, and WWE is canceling an event. So many details in this video. Timestamps in the description down below. I'm going to kick things off with WWE before we jump into AEW, because WWE India's big event that was going to be happening in January looks to be postponed or canceled, and this is really strange. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, WrestleVotes put out a tweet. And this was a very interesting tweet because basically he says that for whatever reason, WWE has decided to postpone the event. Now, Sportskeeda actually followed up with an exclusive, basically suggesting that there are some other events going on around the same time that is preventing WWE from going forward with this. Plus, WWE has Royal Rumble just around the corner, and of course, the WWE Raw 30th anniversary. Now, if you've been watching WWE Raw and SmackDown and NXT, WWE is setting up some really big matches to kick off the new year on free television. It's almost like WWE is treating those cards as pay-per-views, which I think is a really good thing. But now WWE appears to be backing away from this WWE India event. Also, another thing that was mentioned by Sportskeeda is that there are some plans for WWE Raw roster members to join in on the event, whereas originally it was reported that only SmackDown superstars would be on their way to India for this event. Now, obviously, I've said it before, India is a big market for WWE, and because it's a big market for WWE, I do fully expect WWE to return at some point. I also don't blame WWE for postponing this whatsoever, because literally with the Royal Rumble, with the Raw anniversary show, India's got some cricket tournament stuff going on. Like, there's just a lot of stuff happening at this time, and WWE's goal is to maintain a good relationship with their television partners out there in India. And like I said, India is a very big market for WWE. So I think it's really important that WWE becomes the sole focus when they are in India. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on can prevent that from happening. And, WWE wants to make a big splash out there, so it's not necessarily shocking. I hope WWE does find their way to India, and I hope WWE does something special when they do go there. I think WWE doing their international events has been a really good turnout, especially since Triple H has come into power. So this is something I do look forward to, and I'll keep you guys updated when there's more information. A new AEW signing. Yeah, you guys know this was actually, if you follow me on Twitter at AngoPW, this was one of my favorite things about Dynamite. I'm super excited about it. So AEW has signed Grandin Goatsman, who's a former baseball player. He was drafted in the second round by the Tampa Bay Rays in 2011. And he never made it to the major leagues, unfortunately. He made it to some of the lower league farm systems for the Cardinals and the Astros. Detroit Tigers absolutely suck, so I don't follow baseball enough to give you guys insight on that. I mean, granted, this is a wrestling show, but hey, nonetheless, this man right here made his debut alongside Swerve Strickland, Rick Ross, and Parker Boudreaux. And honestly, I thought this was sick. The thing about Swerve and Keith Lee is obviously AEW has been doing some storytelling with them leading to the split. And the cool thing about this is two relatively young guys, two new faces to the company, are being slotted with arguably one of my favorite heels in the company. I think Swerve is an incredible heel, and Rick Ross, who is obviously a notable name. Now, of course, this is very interesting to me. I thought the segment went well. I think a lot of people may have not resonated with it. Maybe some people didn't care for it. But me personally, I thought this was a great way to put on other talent who weren't initially involved in the storyline. What's really interesting to me, though, is Parker Boudreaux, because he was part of the Trustbusters. And you know what? My job here is to talk about the pros and the cons of absolutely everything. I do it with WWE and AEW, so maybe I'm going to look like a bad guy here, but guess what? The reality is this. Parker Boudreaux was part of a faction that was supposed to get pushed, didn't get pushed, and they didn't explain why he left the faction. Now, granted, Arya Daivari put out a tweet about how Parker Boudreaux should be getting the bag, whatever, but nonetheless, here's my actual thoughts. That's a big flaw. Storytelling-wise, AEW decided to just randomly throw Parker Boudreaux in this storyline. Now, granted, they could have done a lot better job of explaining why Parker Boudreaux left the Trustbusters. This was just randomly thrown together, or was it? Because according to Fightful Select, it appears that AEW actually signed Goatsman for a little bit of time now, and he's been training at Jay Lethal's school, the Wrestling Lab. So, obviously, Tony Khan had this in the works for a while. Why didn't he use some TV time to explain Parker Boudreaux leaving the Trustbusters? I'm not sure. At the end of the day, guess what? It's a flaw. It's a flaw that I'm going to point out. But I'm not going to sit here and act like it pisses me off, because truth be told, this was a really dope segment in my opinion. I think Parker Boudreaux is going to benefit a lot with Swerve Strickland. And this guy, who I've never seen wrestle before, they all fit, man. They all fit. And I don't know what his name is going to be on the show. I don't know what his stage name is going to be. But the idea of two guys being paired with Swerve Strickland and Rick Ross, to me, this screams money. There's a lot of potential in this. And I think everybody's going to benefit. And honestly, it's going to benefit Swerve a lot too. So this is one of those things where even though I see the flaw in the storytelling, I'm super excited about it. And I'm glad to see that AEW is doing something there. Now I want to turn our attention to our final story of the day, but guys, just a quick reminder, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button, ring that bell. This way you don't miss out on all the new videos. Miro could be leaving AEW. CJ Perry, formerly known as Lana, did a recent interview on the radio, and she says, well, you know, it just so happens that the Redeemer is fighting on some battlefields against a couple of gods. Rusev Day will never die. It's always going to be around. The kids are going to want to sing it, and I'm sure it will make a return in WWE at some point. Rusev, well, whatever he shows up back in, whatever freaking name or gimmick or character he returns as, at some point in WWE is going to be iconic. You know, he is the greatest thing about wrestling. It doesn't matter what company you work for, what promotion, anything can happen. Let's be honest, we know that everyone always returns back to WWE at some point. And guess what, my friends? I actually agree. I don't know what the hell is going on with Miro. As you guys know, I recently talked about how Miro turned down some creative ideas. Meltzer chimed in with some more details on this. And basically what ended up happening was Tony Khan had a program planned and laid out for Miro for Full Gear this year. But basically Miro didn't want to take the loss, and that was kind of the point. Now, Meltzer actually made a really good point too. He said that, you know, Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland had chances to return to WWE, but decided not to. And then it's also basically like this thing where WWE guys, you know, a lot of WWE talent obviously might be some exceptions, maybe John Moxley, Danielson, you know, things like that. But these guys might have some exceptions. There might be some exceptions to certain talent, but a lot of WWE talent who have gone to AEW kind of have this thing where they don't want to lose. And I think it's actually a very fair point, because at the end of the day, they're being brought in from the superior company, coming into the smaller company. Maybe they come from WWE where they lose a lot as well. Maybe they weren't featured prominently in storylines. Yeah, they probably thought AEW was going to be a company that gave them an opportunity to actually raise their stock and get some big performances and big wins. And for a lot of talent, that doesn't seem to be the case. Now, here's the thing. Miro being on the sidelines is a shocking thing to me. And as much as I like Goatsman signing with AEW, and as much as I like some of the talent that come to AEW, the fact that there are still signings that came in last year and are still not used prominently or even properly, it's an issue. And, you know, whether Rusev leaves AEW or not, whether Miro actually leaves, I can't say for sure, but I can see him flourishing in WWE. I think his time has expired in AEW, and I just don't see anything big coming out of it. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below.